All right, unlike fractions, adding and subtracting are unlike fractions. Again, got to have a common denominator still. If they already do have a common denominator, is what we call like fractions. We like those, those are easier. But if they do not have a common denominator, then we have ourselves some unlike fractions. Now, in order to turn unlike fractions to like fractions, probably the simplest way that you can do it is to butterfly. Now, there are other ways to do it. As long as you get a common denominator, that is fine with me. But I will show you the butterfly method here, and hopefully you can apply that accordingly. So, again, 2 steps. When you have the butterfly method, we're going to cross multiply the wings, which means we multiply along the diagonals. Then we're going to, whatever the antenna is for that, right, those products, we're going to add or subtract whatever the operation tells us to do. That will give us our numerator, and then for our denominator, all we got to do is multiply those 2 denominators. Now, since it is a fraction, anytime you can simplify your answer, we're going to look to do it. So just make sure at the end you're dividing out your common factors to put your answer in simplest form. So let's get to it. All right, 3/5 plus 1/10. Now, again, if we butterfly this, we have 3 times 10, which is 30. Change my brush here, which is 30. And 1 times 5, which is 5. Now, whatever this operation is what we're going to do with those 2 products. We're going to add those. We get 30 plus 5, which is 35. We multiply our denominators, 5 times 10, which is 50. So our answer is 35/50, which, yeah, ends in a 5 and a 0. We can at least divide by 5. It's a good place to start. We get 7/10. Again, anytime you reduce, take a second look, see if you can go any further. We can't. 7/10 is correct. So 7/10 is your answer in simplest form. Now, like I said, not the only way. If we look at this, one advantage, if you know your factors and you can get from one denominator to the other denominator with a factor, make sure you multiply both parts, your numerator and your denominator, by that factor to get your equal value. Like for instance, in this case, yeah, I can get from 5 to 10 with a factor, and that factor is 2. So I'm going to multiply both parts by 2/2, which is not going to change the value. I'm not taking twice the amount. I'm just cutting it up into twice as many pieces, right? So that's going to give us 6/10 plus the extra 1/10, which equals, yes, 7/10. So you get the same answer if you're good at that and you can see it. Not every problem can you get from one denominator to the other, so it's not going to be something that you would use every time, but in certain situations, absolutely, if it makes it easier, then go for it. Okay. So, anyways, let's move it on here. Number 2, we have -5/6 plus -4/9. Now, a negative plus a negative, I automatically know I'm going to have more. Your answer is going to be negative, right? And when we do this, again, we're going to cross multiply with our wings. So 5 times 9, that is 45. Now, I know that since this side of our operation is negative, then I know that my antenna is going to be negative over there. Okay? On the other diagonal, I got 4 times 6, which is 24. And same idea, I got a negative here, so that antenna is going to be a negative. And when I add a negative and a negative, it's going to be more negative, right? Santi rules, which gives us, in this case, -69 over our denominator, which is 6 times 9, which is 54. Okay, now in this situation, that is an improper fraction where our top is bigger than our bottom. And again, we want to convert that to simplify an improper fraction. We're going to turn that into a mixed number with a whole number and a fraction, and you can divide it out, right? Build a house, top in, bottom out, do all that stuff. Just remember, whenever you simplify a negative fraction, your answer is still going to be negative. It's not going to change the sign if you simplify. It's just going to change the number of pieces that we have. So anyways, when you look at this, 54 goes into 69 one time. And I know my denominator is not going to change. My denominator is still going to be 54. Now, the last thing is how many pieces are left. So if 54 of those 69 have been converted to a whole number, 54 54ths, I have an extra 15 pieces left. Okay? So that's negative 15 54ths. And actually, you can reduce this even more. If you look at it, you know they're both divisible by 3. So that's negative 1 and 5 eighteenths. Right, so there is your final answer right there. Negative 1 and 5/18. Okay? All right. Let's look at this one. Number 4 here, we have, change my brush, 4/5 minus 3/10. So here we go. Cross multiply the wings. 4 times 10 is 40. And 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, this case is a subtraction problem, so I'm going to subtract my antenna there. 40 minus 15 is 25. Multiply my denominators. 5 times 10 is 50. And look at that, you got 25 50ths, which we should all know reduces down to 1/2. Okay, so there it is. 4/5 minus 3/10 is actually 1/2. And again, this is another one where you can get from 5 to 10 if you think about it. Multiply by 2 on top and bottom, you get 8/10 and 8/10. Sorry, 8/10 minus 3/10 equals 8 minus 3 is 5. Keep denominator the same. 5/10, which reduces down to 1/2. Okay. All right. Now, I'll do that. Back to that one. Looking at number 5 here. All right, now this is a fraction minus a negative fraction, and if you remember, keep change reverse, it's actually just going to be an addition problem, okay? So you should automatically know that I'm just going to be adding two positive fraction because it's going to be the same as subtracting a negative. When you subtract a negative, you do the opposite of taking it away, which would be to add it. So I'm already thinking that before I even do any butterflying or anything, but I got 3 times 4, which is 12, along that diagonal, cross multiply the other direction. 1 times 8, which is 8. I add those friends, we get a numerator of 20 over our denominator, which is 8 times 4, which is 32. Now we can reduce this one as well. Common factor of 4 on top and bottom gives us 5. 32 divided by 4 is 8. We can't reduce 5/8, so there is our answer in simplest form. Okay? So there's some problems using the butterfly method. Again, if you already have like fractions, don't do the butterfly because it's just going to cause you more work than you need to do. If you have unlike fractions though, to butterfly, you cross multiply the wings, multiply along the diagonals, and then add or subtract whatever your operation tells you to do with your antenna then that you have for your products. And then your denominator, all you got to do to get that common denominator is to multiply the two denominators, and that will automatically give you a common denominator in those situations. So if you need any help, let me know. Good luck.